Hello and welcome. I am the Letter Hack, and with me now is a very special guest, the host of What Do You Mean, all the way from Australia. It's multi Letter Hack award winner, Ange. Ange, thanks for being here. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's up past my bedtime just for you.
Yes. Okay. Well, I won't keep you long because I know it's late there. It's also winter or autumn. It's about to be
Uh,
winter
the
there.
opposite of you. Yeah, it's getting cold now. I have to.
Okay. Yeah. We're finally getting warm. All right. And we were debating on who's further south in their respective region. I'm going to default to you. So, does that affect the weather? Is it like not as cold as it normally would be? Is it worse? How's it work in Australia? I always get confused.
Uh, yeah, I'm in the part of the country that actually has the seasons, like the four of them, and then when you go more north, you just get hot and cold, sort of wet and dry, sort of sticky and not sticky, I think. And so yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, look, I'm a big fan of your work. I feel like I got on social media and then started paying attention to alternatives to the mainstream media and then immediately discovered your work. And um, I know we've interacted online and I'm just like a huge fan. I think you're one of the most genuine people out there doing this sort of work.
Oh,
Would
thank you.
you well and like it I was showing one of your videos on our stream recently and I was commenting on how I have Sam Cedar in my intro and you have Michael Brooks in your intro. I think I come from the school of Sam Cedar. Would you say that you come from the school of Michael Brooks?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think on my Twitter or whatever, on the "What do you mean" one, I still have pinned to the top that painting I did of Michael with a few voice clips of things he said about like my channel and stuff. And I think he said it's like, yeah, part of the TMBS militia. And yeah, I always held that clip real close to my heart. And also in my intro, if it's hard to grab it, but there's like other people saying, "What do you mean?" And I think one of them is Sam Cedar because they all go
Oh.
so fast.
Oh, nice. Okay,
It's
awesome.
it's great.
So,
It's like now, like I hear every time I hear, I just add it to another playlist because it's like everyone's gonna say it. It's just a very easy go-to saying.
yeah, right. No, I can imagine that. And no one says, "Oh my gosh, it's a letter hack." So I'm probably
Yeah.
just stuck with the one that I have now. Okay, so while I get in on tonight's drawing like I always do, I was hoping that you could give us some of your origin story and talk a bit about, yourself and like how you decided to cover politics. Was there one catalyst? Did someone inspire you or did it just happen like organically over time?
I think there was a few, like, things that caused the snowball effect where it sort of, like, seemed like this is where I was heading, but I wasn't aware of it, but, other people around me were like, "Yeah, she's gonna end up in politics somehow." Um, things just like, my brother has a disability, and so I got very involved, um, when they started the NDIS, the National Disability Insurance Scheme here, and that sort of started it with the family life. And then also there was, like, a moment at work because I worked with my dad, and it's sorta like watching the penny drop for a boomer and realizing inflation, and now he's on our side, and he realizes there's no point just saying to the next generation, "Oh, you just need to work harder." He actually realizes we're not gonna get anywhere near as far with the economy we have. So just little things like that, just like moments in time that made me go, "Hmm, it's not like it's it's beyond just an individual being able to solve a lot of these problems that individuals face." And, yeah, then yeah, actually, when I went to America to see Michael Brooks' first live show, and that's the whole reason why I went there, that was a very long flight, and
Wow.
after the show in my hotel room, that is when I decided to, uh, join the Australian Progressives and run back in 2 elections ago, and we have them every 3 years, so that was like, what, 29? Oh, jeez, I can't even think of what year it was,
So
2019?
you ran as a candidate.
Yeah, yeah, the
Oh, I didn't
last 2
know that.
elections. Yeah, I figured it's like, try to do most of the advertising to my area, don't really do much of it online because I don't really think I have many South Australian followers. Yeah, mainly just to, like, 'cause I've like, where I live is very much a liberal, stronghold, and Liberal is our right side, our right-wing party, and Labor's our left wing. It gets confusing to some people, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me when you go, like, it's the neoliberal party versus what's meant to be Labor, but they're the same thing now. We got the same problem as you guys. They're just sort of like you got 2 sides of the same coin with one of them just being less openly bigoted, but they both got the same, like, corporate backers. Thanks for that. I feel like we've got a lot of, like, influence because, like, if you guys do it over there, then I think that's, like, a green flag for them to try and do it here. That's why I keep an eye on you. It's just, like, because I almost can predict what we're gonna do just by what I think. Yeah, that's pretty much what one of my most recent videos was about. Just like, "Yeah, look, we're gonna follow America. We're gonna do what they do." But yeah, running in the elections, it's it was an experience, um, going and doing, the debate with the other candidates in a town hall. That was a really good experience. I think there was, like, because on I think 1 year, there was 1 out of 8. I was against 7 other people, and another year it was 1 out of 11.
So it's the liberals keep winning.
Yeah, this seat, where I live had one guy here for my whole life. Like, he was there for 26 years when I was 25, and then he retired, and it's still the same party that, so it's like, yeah, and from, like, knowing the people that live around here, it makes a lot of sense. But I just
Okay,
feel like you gotta run for a seat that you live in, because I, like, realized that there
yeah.
was some people running for this seat, and they don't live anywhere near here. I'm like, "Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute." I didn't even know you were allowed to do that. I thought you'd have to have an address within the seat you're running to, but apparently you don't.
Yeah, I've talked to people over here that have had that same experience, and they say the first thing those people do if they win is they start bringing in other people from outside the area for, like, their administration, or start giving them, like, their private businesses contracts and stuff like that. And so it's a real outside job. But so you have personal motivation to do this sort of stuff, running for office, and also like your show, and like you were saying, there's a lot of influence from our media. um from your point of view, as someone who covers, global politics, right? Like, I don't really talk about Israel Palestine here, unless it comes up with a guest in that context, or they bring it up. I feel like if I'm not qualified to talk on the subject, I'd rather have a guest who's the resident expert, so to speak. So let me ask you this from your point of view: and I bring that up because you cover it very well,
Thank you.
and
Yeah, I
I would
felt, yeah,
say your
it's like
videos
half of
are.
the channel was like, "What would Michael Brooks want me be doing right now with my channel?" And it's like, yeah, keep that in mind with most of my content.
So do you think that U.S. politics have an effect on the entire world, not just like obvious places, hey, their right wing government or conservative government is doing this, let's try it out? Do you think like everything we do affects the world? Like, what kind of ripple effect does the U.S. government and specifically politics have on everything?
Ooh, yeah, well,
Like negative, right?
yeah, like, we got army bases for you in the middle of this country. Uh, like, I'm thinking of all the countries that your country has, like, either successfully or attempted a coup on, and it's a long list. It's a very long list. Or just, yeah. Uh, I can't think of where you haven't.
Oh, that's a really good way to answer that. You just say
I have that
everywhere.
song, that, like Yakko's World, where it's, like, just saying all the countries in the world. It's just like that listing off in my head of, like, where has America tried to overthrow the government or something? you pretty much every country that's attached to the same continent south of you, I
Wow.
assume pretty much all of them, you've done something to them. Um, and the islands around, and then the Middle East.
What about in terms of the media?
Oh, the media. Oh,
Does our media affect your media?
I should apologize to you for the fact that Rupert Murdoch is from
Ah,
Australia,
right.
and he's
Good
done
point.
such a number on your country. I honestly I'm sorry. At least he's not from my state. He's from it's over there somewhere. But, like, I've always thought, like, Australia tried to balance it out, and they gave the world Rupert Murdoch, which sorry about that, but then they tried, and Julian Assange tried to, find some do some good stuff with the media, but no, never mind. One's a billionaire, one's gonna be locked up. That's how the world goes. But yeah,
Is your media as bad as ours? Like, is Rupert
well,
Murdoch doing the same thing over there?
he started off here. So, well, Rupert Murdoch, I'm pretty sure his first newspaper, Australian newspaper, was in my state. That's why I thought he might have been from my state, but no, just his first newspaper. And he owns every newspaper in the country. His sons own one of the most popular radio stations because I'm pretty sure they got rid of laws here which prevented, or maybe that's how they went around the laws by getting the son to own the thing, where you weren't
Hmm.
meant to own like TV networks, radio stations, and newspapers. But they do. And yeah, I think he even tried to buy MySpace, and then that didn't work out for him. It Yeah, it's our media, because I don't really watch TV anymore, and from what I ask, it seems like Netflix has just sort of taken over most of people's screen viewing time if they do sit down and watch any sort of TV or anything. Because yeah, I think, like, from 'cause we have free to air TV. I don't think you guys have
What is that?
that. It's free TV. It's just TV that you don't have to
So
pay for.
we have public television, but there's like one news show and then it's kind of dull. We show
Like,
a
we
lot
had,
of
like,
BBC stuff on there.
like, it was, cultural, like, everyone knows, like, Channel 10, The Simpsons at 6 o'clock at night before Neighbours, and it was like the whole country would get about it. We'd have the sports on there, and yeah, it when I realized that other countries didn't do that, I'm just like, "Oh, nah," because you can pay for TV here. You can get Foxtel, which is another Murdoch thing and whatnot, but why are you gonna pay for something if you're never gonna really use it? It's like certain people, sure, but it seems like a waste of money if you're barely gonna watch TV anyways. And, yeah, the newspaper, I do like to keep an eye on the newspaper, the advertiser, 'cause, my grandparents still have the actual thing delivered to them, so it's like I can actually physically go read it and see what's being fed to, like, the people that still buy the newspaper, and oh my goodness, it's I don't know if I feel better about s half of it being ads, because it's like, "Oh, would I rather it be, like, actual articles and more things to, like, just poison them?" I like, "Sure, just give them more ads about washing machines and whatever." And it's like you're really just paying
Right.
for a really big catalog printed on newspaper at this stage, so yeah, I don't know, it depends on how you view it.
Well, do you think there's like here's a question. So we have right versus left. So it's like Fox versus MSNBC. And MSNBC is like supposedly liberal in a good way, like left, but it's very much establishment. And then you have Fox, which same thing, right? Um big big fans of the right-wing government, so they're in favor of politicians and government, just different ones. But like there was a time where we knew they were using talking points from right-wing politicians, and people were hesitant to call it propaganda, and then we became comfortable saying this is just right-wing propaganda, this is racist, bigoted propaganda. And then in this country we were nervous about saying, no, they're kind of like fascist, but we don't want to use that word. Now we're like, no, these are authoritarian fascists, that this is fascism, this is what Trump wants to do, this is what the Republicans want to do here. And then you see there are right-wing politicians and governments all over the place that are doing well in politics and their elections. Do you ever have fear of like, this is my worst nightmare. a united global right wing. Do you think
Oh,
such a thing could happen, or is that
well,
just are they
you
not
kinda
that
see it
organized?
with, like, not so much well, you have, yeah, people from your country and then come talk to, like, right-wing politicians here and do, like, talks and whatever, but you see it, like, was it Tucker Carlson going over and talking to certain governments and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's already a thing that's sort of kind of yeah, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I think your fear is here. I think it's happening. Um, but yeah, what I find real fascinating about, like, the media and your right-wing media and, like, the audience of, like, where the power how the power dynamic works there, because I, like, just remember from, your was it the election and, I think Fox called a state and that Biden won, and then everyone just lost their minds, and then I think that's sort of
Oh,
how
right.
you created those other channels because 'cause they're like, "Nah, Fox is not good enough. They told us the truth or whatever." Like, that's wild. That's like 'cause it's like that was like a moment, it's like, well, it's not the media feeding the people what they need to think at that stage. It's then, like, the backlash is then controlling what the media then how far they think they can go with what they say. That is some scary stuff. That was, like, quite a thing to witness, especially from this far. I don't know because 'cause I'm further back, I can get a better view at the whole picture, but that was just, yes, that was no good.
Yeah, I remember at the time of, it was like 2020 when Trump was screaming and crying about election fraud and stuff like that. That just wasn't the case. I was in a barber shop and they had America One News Network or whatever that super right wing network that came out was, and they were just talking about the craziest, most harebrained things, and it was not fact based, and it was all opinion. It went on for like an hour, and I was like, there's 10 people in here listening to this, and not one person has said, "What the hell are you listening to? This is all tabloid. This is garbage." They just take it for news nowadays. So that's what motivates them, right? The right wing talking points and propaganda, and they're probably banking off it. They're making money for it. You're motivated by personal reasons, personal experiences, and the desire to help your area, your where you live. Let me ask you this though: are you doing a form of journalism? Because I always ask people who say, "Oh, I'm in the infotainment business. I'm an edutainer. I'm educating and entertaining at the same time." And okay, so they don't have a literal degree in journalism, and I think you don't have a literal degree in journalism either, right? But like, is what you're doing at least a form of journalism because you're doing reportage on not just um, current affairs and news stories, but the people that tell the news, right? Like, so are you doing a form of journalism?
Well, I'm not funny, so I can't get away with saying it's comedy, can I? So, um
I think you are. I laugh out loud at your stuff. I do.
so,
There are
uh
times.
like, 'cause yeah, I don't have a degree in nothing. I'm just a tiler. Uh, I always sort of saw it more like as informing people, where like I don't want to take nothing from actual journalists that have to go like get in the dirt of it. Especially because like I just made like a tribute to the journalists in Palestine, and it's just like yeah, it's like I'm definitely just some rinky dink YouTuber with ain't got no degrees, but I definitely do take what I do like seriously and like the comments when people go, "Thank you for what you do," and I'd say I'm, no, we'll go with somewhat of an influencer with the dedication to informing people, so that's
Is that journalism? Is that like a
I
new form of
I think it can,
journalism?
like it's like a branch off, like, yeah, it's like, you have your, backyard versions of everything, like your self-taught, versions of everything, like, you're not gonna really turn down a guitarist if they're still good, but they're self-taught, are you? You're gonna be like, "Yep, it's a guitarist." So, yeah, I
That
feel like yeah.
yeah, that's a great analogy. Thank you for putting it that way. I'm probably going to incorporate that into that question going forward. The way I say it is, if you and I crash on an island and I'm injured and you fix me, You're the doctor in that situation. You might not have gone to med school, but there's one of us who knows what to do and one of us who doesn't. And so
I'm
in
so
that
ready to
way,
be crushed on an island. That's exactly why I've
wouldn't that
got
be
all of
great?
this tied to me. I'm just like, I'm gonna make myself a raft, a shelter, a fishing rod. You have no idea how ready I am.
That's awesome. Okay, do you wanna influence people? Do you wanna change minds, or are you just putting this information out there with the proper context and hoping that people, know how to filter it?
Yeah, I think that's one of like my underlining motivations because I sort of a lot of like ideas and inspiration for my content would be when I see something that or like an argument that no one else has made or like hasn't been made in a way that I reckon would be convincing. And yeah, sort of to change minds and also beyond that, sort of give people extra arguments to use while they go out and change minds. So it might not necessarily be like my content's designed for the person who disagrees with me, but designed for someone that agrees with me, but it's going to go out there and have the conversations with like their friends and family. And I hopefully have given them an extra piece of information to then bring to that conversation. That was like when I made my first video, that was the thought process behind it. Being like, I hope people get something out of this. So when they go have chats with their families, because yeah, I think like someone even said to me in a comment where they like, "Thank you so much for this like one way you describe something," like just how you said with the guitar thing. I think it was a video about climate change, and it's like they brought my point to their friends at work, and they're like, "Yeah, they get it now." I was like, "Oh, that is so satisfying to hear." That was yep, that was my goal, and that is very good feedback to hear.
I think we need to be doing that more often. Instead of talking directly to whoever's watching, we should be talking to them in terms of this is how you should talk to the people in your lives. Because anyone watching, in theory, already gets it. Maybe
Yeah,
there's a few
exactly.
new viewers, but most of these people are already picking up what we're putting down. So we should be telling them, here's how you say it to people in your lives. And so, um, along those lines, okay, so you get positive pushback. Do you ever get negative pushback?
Other
Anybody
than
ever
things just
disagree?
technical things like audio and things that didn't work out,
I get that.
uh, it's always very, like I think I just have people, like, just message me saying they appreciate how they can disagree with me on certain things, but they still will, like, uh see my point and see where I'm coming from, which is, I guess, like, the most I can ask for. So, yeah, and that's, like, things where usually be something where I wouldn't expect everyone to agree with me, where it's just, like and also I do appreciate that because then I take that and I hear it as I gotta work on my argument a bit more. If it's something that I don't think they should be opposed to me on, then I then have to just work on how I word it or explain it or the examples I use. So yeah, every sort of feedback I find very helpful because every time you mention it, I think of like examples of like, yep, someone said something like that, and I found it very, very useful. Because people are very polite usually. I like that. 'Cause
Good.
I don't know, I read the comments and it's usually pleasant.
Nice. Well, so you use art in your videos, which I appreciate. And I was remarking recently on a live stream that you do it so much better than I do. For one thing, I'm doing it digitally and you're drawing with like a marker, which is very challenging for me. And not only that, but then you incorporate it into your editing process where you're adding other graphics and effects to it. It's amazing. I feel like it's very appealing and it makes your stuff a lot more accessible. It just does. And I don't think that's necessarily true for anybody. I hope it's
Mm.
true for me, but I think there's very few of us out there incorporating art into it in a way that makes sense or is like seamless. What is it about art in general that makes you want to create?
Um, well, it's sort of part like I use it as a motivation thing to get me to draw more and have more reasons to draw. And also just to keep like things that might be a bit like dry and boring, maybe a bit interesting, where it's like keep people's attention, where it's in case instead of just looking at a diagram or a model, it's like, look at me draw the human heart and then follow the arrows that I'm gonna put on there afterwards. 'Cause yeah, that's probably one of the most rewarding videos I've made because the comments of people saying, "I understand this now." I was like, I think a few teachers have asked to use it in their, like,
Wow.
biology classes and stuff, so I'm like, "That is oh so satisfying. Go your hardest. Yes, please." That's why I did my best not to swear, which I don't think you would need to when you're describing the human heart and lungs. But yeah,
Right.
and also then because then I can, have the whole video without any worries that I've used anything from anyone, uh, licensed or anything, and it's all my original artwork, and I don't have to worry about anyone coming for me for in that sense. Um, and, yeah, also because I started off without showing my face, did not really want anyone to know what I look like, so I think I got, like, 200 videos in, and then I, like, finally just caved and was like, "Alright, here's what I look like, everybody." Um, and so that was like, I had to put something on the screen, so it's like, "You can see my hands, that's the most you're gonna get, everyone," and I'll just keep drawing and talking, and then I eventually got the camera thing.
I did the
Um,
exact same thing.
yeah, it's like, "Hi," and it's like, "Alright, alright." I think when, like, people, freaked out when I made a video showing you how to make a material mask if like, when the pandemic started, if you had no other choice,
Oh, yeah.
you had to obviously model it, and they're like, "Oh, there's half her face." I was like, "Didn't think you guys would really care, but okay."
That's awesome. Would you ever 'cause, do you live stream at all?
Um, no, because I figure the time would be I suppose I could find a good time frame where it would be like, probably just nighttime over there or something in
Yeah.
the middle of the day for something here. But yeah, I'd probably have to then coordinate it with my neighbors and everything, be like, "Alright, no one's gonna
Mhm.
need to do any lawn mowing. Alright, you don't need to do any, like, hedge trimming or nothing, because yeah, it's like nowhere in my one-story house where you can get completely away from outside noise, and so that's sort of why I do a lot of my everything at night because, yeah, people are like, "Why are you up at 3 AM?" Because no one is using a lawnmower at 3 AM.
Right.
That's why.
Would you ever do interviews? Like,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
like, would you ever draw people while interviewing them like I do? I'm just curious if that's the thing as an artist and someone who does what, makes content. Am I crazy for doing that? Is that
No, no, that's what people do. That people pay good money to have people well, I don't know if it's why during an interview, but yeah, um, I draw people like, I draw everything. I actually I found it and I managed to grab it before this, but I found the original pencil drawing of the logo for my channel. Would you like
Oh,
to see
wow.
it?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Definitely.
And then I had the idea where I actually started scanning it and printing off copies. And so when people sign up to my, Patreon, and I'll send them a copy of the original logo.
Oh, man, that is wild.
And this was
Nice.
done before I even thought of having a channel, and I was like, "Yeah, Imma just draw my feelings for the day."
That's
And then I was
amazing.
like, "Alright, Imma just use this for the logo for my channel because it's very people that know me, like, in my real life, they're like, "Yeah, that tracks." The crowbar, everyone's known me to have a crowbar handy for a long time. They're very useful utensils.
For tiling.
No, well, for
Oh,
stuff,
just like what? Like, you're
like
just walking around town with a crowbar.
well, yeah, it's very intimidating, um,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're just very handy to get into places, open things, get nails out, that's I
Open
even
things like safes and locked doors, or what are you talking about?
and during a like, because everything that you guys do over there eventually ends up over here, and it's like Halloween, and then they have
Yeah.
Halloween decorations on sale, and it's like, "Why?" Don't even get me my number I'm the biggest I'm on the forefront of the front lines of the anti-Americanization, no offense, of Australia. You get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even just weird little annoying culture things, where I always even with back when I was a child, I remember being in my first years of school going like, "Why are we drawing snowmen on these Christmas cards? What are we doing? When have you seen snow? Where have you seen snow?
Right,
No?
because it's
Again, what?"
summer, right.
And exactly, and it just drove me wild every time. Like, even in our winter, we're not seeing snow, so it's like,
I
so
would rather it be the other way. I'd like some Australian influence over here, or influence from anywhere else over here. It's like when
yeah,
people
yeah, get ranked choice voting. Highly Medicare, I got a Medicare card. I'm not even 30 yet. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Do it. I reckon we should just, like, because that's what I thought government should do. Go see where a good thing is and go, "That looks great. That looks like it's working. We'll try that out." So it's like, you got the Social Security thing sorted. We know what we're doing with Medicare, kinda. And the problem is, just with the flip of it, is like privatization. You're just gonna let a whole bunch
right.
of, like, for-profit, icky fingers get in there, and then it's all ruined for a lot of people. Funny that.
Um yeah, I mean, I like Halloween, but I get it. If it's not like part of your culture, like it that could be very weird cuz
Yeah,
it's like cutesy scary or whatever.
it's because I watched it, like, slowly. Because when I was a kid, you have to go to, like, places, specialty places to find, like, things that would be, but now it's like during that time of year, they just, yep, every supermarket has little pumpkin things, and that's where when I went shopping to buy food, I was like, "Oh, I'll buy that bag of bones. I'll get that skull so I can make this."
That's
'Cause I got a
awesome.
crowbar that's, like, the right size, and I'll just paint it up,
Oh,
and then
that's
I'll have a
great.
real my thing for my channel, and that's, like, the only upside to there. Because I don't know why else they'll need to sell these, and there was a bit of my front yard that was dug up and looked like a grave, and I put the hands there and just watched people walk past going, yeah, that was the most
I
entertainment I had for ages.
I drew you holding that one time, and I was thinking to myself, like, I wonder what this is. Oh well, it seems right. It works, whatever it is. But let me ask you this: when you okay, so you had this great two-part video that we watched on my show um, about Israel Palestine and the military attacks on the Gaza Strip, and this was back when people were like, it sounds like a genocide. Is it a genocide? And now it's like it was like the next day everyone was like it is. And you reported on how it was being reported by the mainstream media, and in the video you use clips from other online media shows, the Majority Report, the Rational National, Secular Talk, and you put the information out there in a highly organized way. Um, that was far better than anything I've seen before or since. Like I have been sharing that video and that two-part video, and then there was another like much longer one.
Oh,
I
yeah, the 5-hour long one. Yeah, I locked myself away, and everyone, like, even my mum was messaging me like, "Are you gonna come see me?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry, mum, I just," like,
that must have taken a long time to produce.
well, because I think I started it at around, like, a month in, and like, the folder everything's saved in is still called, says, like, something like it's got 70 days written on there or whatever, and then I'm just like, "Alright, we'll drag it out to 100 days," because I could sense that more things were gonna happen, that were relevant, and then I'm just like, "I gotta find a cutoff point." It's like I rounded up to 100, and, because that there, like, was mainly just to document war crimes and to have, so it's just like I felt like a moral obligation to be like, like there's a hard drive somewhere in the world with all the, because in case something happens to all those accounts, all those people's Instagrams or whatever, that it's all somewhere saved off of the internet and can still be like, there's the evidence is preserved somewhere. That's what I felt like my moral obligation was to do. And then I figured, if I'm doing that, you might as well make a video out of it. And how do you do that? You do it day by day. Oh,
I
that
I
there,
was
yeah.
I was sharing that saying this is graphic and sensitive but important. You got to watch it, right? Because it reminded me of back when I was in the only other thing it reminded me of was when I was in like junior high and high school, and they would show us videos from the Holocaust, the Jewish Holocaust during World War II, and you know I was like, "Oh, are we allowed to see this?" And they were like, "We have to show you this." And now they're trying to hide that stuff. So good on you
Mm.
for putting that out there because any day now somebody's going to be trying to whitewash this whole thing. But just you make it very digestible. And I think part of why your videos are digestible and accessible, it's not just the art that you incorporate into it. It's not just your style of narrating, because that is very like you have a presence and a tone that's actually comforting, even when talking about like the most atrocious things, or like, I don't know if it's like the Australian dialect or accent, but
Yeah, I
even like when
utilize my
swearing,
monotone.
it sounds, I love it. Like it, like, sometimes you say a word and I find myself like chuckling at how it sounds compared to how it sounds over here. And I'm like, well, it's not appropriate to be laughing right now. You know what I mean? But it's just, I don't know. It's like I like hearing other people's dialects, particularly Australia. But when you use other alternative media hosts and their videos in your work, and sometimes you'll show a video, I forget who it was exactly, but it'll be like David Dole showing the Humanist Report, and it's in your video. And I
Mm.
think that that feels like a strategy. Is it? Are you trying to like,
It
in a sense, flood the zone by showing people there's all these alternatives to the mainstream out there, or does that just happen because that's the content
That
you
was sort of
absorb?
like an unintended, like, because I have noticed people go like, "Thank you for the, other channel recommendations and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, good, that's always good." Um, but it was mainly also to sort of like, I think kind of in one way, like, build the legitimacy of sort of be like, "Look, multiple people are saying, like, the point I'm trying to make, and so it's not just me that thinks this." Um, and Yeah, I think that was, like, sort of when I do things like that and be like, it's instead of me saying it, because also if I feel like I'm just gonna end up saying the exact same thing as what I've heard someone say, like, I can't think of a better way to word it, I figure might as well just use them saying it instead of, like, yeah, pretty much copying word for word what they're gonna say. That's for the other reason too, just being like, I could not possibly think of a better way to word some of these things, so I might as well just take it from the source in which I hear it.
Yeah, I love that because it bothers me when I'm watching alternatives to the mainstream media, and that alternative, quote unquote, is using clips from MSNBC. And I'm like, oh, I thought you were the alternative to that, but you're relying on their video for your alternative. I don't get it. So I appreciate that. And so you have this huge 5-hour video where you're editing one day at a time through what's going on in Israel and Gaza, and then the genocide there, and showing it happen. You have other videos where you go from critiquing a news report, like a video news report, to an article, back to the news report, back to the article, to a different article, back to the original article. And and when I watch that, I'm like, it's so organized. I'm not lost. How do you keep it organized? Is that a challenge for you, or can you just do that? Because that seems like a real gift.
It's sort of like, well, yeah, a lot of my, like, hard drives and everything, it would be a mess where it's sort of like I will know where things are. Um, I have a fairly decent memory, and I'd like to utilize it a lot with making my videos where I'll sort of, like, remember the events of things chronologically, and I will, like, just scroll back through a lot of mess and then be like, "This happened before that, and if that's a screenshot of that article, then this must be 4 more scrolls down." I know it sounds crazy, but, um, yeah, it's sort of just like as long as time stays in the order in which I left it, I've got a system. But then, I do have, like, when something, like, is important and serious to me, like the 100 days after October the 7th video, I have each day has its own folder, and so then each month has its own folder, and then I just piled everything I found from that day into its folder, and then just worked on the video in, like, 10-day chunks sort of thing, and then put the whole thing together. Um, so I think, yeah, there is I have some sort of organization to this, but, it's very, like, yeah, basic, sort of obvious, like, I have a file for each thing where I have to add multiple things. Um, and I email myself a lot,
Oh,
or I have,
yeah, I
like,
do that. Yeah.
I'll keep piling links to something, and I'll try and put them in the right order, or, like, I'll bookmark them all and then just send the bookmark as an email to myself so I can then just get it on my computer and have, like, all the sources there ready to go, and, um, so, yeah, a lot of emails to myself, and,
It sounds artful. It sounds like as artful as your literal drawing and your art, like the way you do it. Like, cause it did, you know, how would you structure something like that without like, you know, like those detective shows where they have all the photos on the wall with that red yarn
Yeah,
connecting? That's
I've done
kind of
that
what
with
it
the red.
sounds like.
I've done that, as a video where I've even have, like, in my little "What do you mean" set of drawers with all the stuff I use, I got, like, red, string with the pins already ready to go. What did I use that for? Yeah, explaining Australian media, that's right.
Oh,
Of, like,
okay.
who owns what and how they own it and how much they own of this many. Yes, very handy tactic, that one with the red string. Um, yeah, I think, I would like to be more organized. Like, I kind of, like, feel a bit bad from, like, "Oh, I should have already done how who donates to Australian political parties." I'm usually, like, on that before this time of the year, but, better late than never. Um,
I
and
just
yeah, I
watched that.
think
That was a great video.
yeah, that I was like, I feel like went back and checked the other ones, and I did make that one shorter by doing it by a corporation instead of by the parties and listing them all off. Oh, yeah, did you see the painting I did? Because I had a few people when they come over, they just, like, kept looking at it like, that's like I'm pretty sure I watched someone tear up from sitting there and looking at my half-finished painting I did, um, of, it was as a tribute to Aaron Bushnell.
No, I didn't. How did I miss that? Was that which
How
video?
did you miss that? It
Was that
just
in one
pretty
of
much
your
says, like,
videos?
"RIP Aaron" as the title.
I may have. I was skipping over a lot of stuff with that name just because my own.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it's very
can't.
rough,
Yeah, I
and that's
can't
why I was like,
handle it.
it's because that's like you search and that's gonna be the first few things will actually be like the footage, and so, like, because it was mainly started from a tweet where I just saw something and I replied with, 3 dates where I remembered seeing mass graves from that video, the 5-hour-long video I made, and I just,
Yeah,
like, off the top of my head, had the 3 dates where I remembered videos of mass graves, and then I went back and checked, and I was correct on all 3 of them, and so the picture was pretty much 'cause then I knew there would be another one. I just knew there'd be a 4th. The video's like, the picture I'll show you. Do you want me to get the painting? It's right behind me.
sure. Yeah.
Actually, and I also have to let my cat in because I just heard a knock on the
No, go
door.
ahead.
Now the painting's still very, "Hey, how you going?" It was mainly more so for the time lapse of it to, like, watch it happen because, like, the army suit doing the individual green splodges and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very upsetting thing
Wow.
where it's like these are 4 separate, like, dates, and in the video with the time lapse, before I start painting the figure in the middle, it stops and goes to the images, my reference images, and then the videos that the stills from, and you have it what you watch a couple of seconds of each, video, and then I start the next part, um, which was yeah, that was, 'cause, like, that sort of just like, these are the videos that I say to people, like, it's another one that just made itself, where I just felt like I was doing the thing, like, yeah, I'm sure it was my idea, but it felt like, it's so many things that sort of just fell into place, and then I just went along and did it, and because I even just
Yeah.
found the
How
canvas that was this size lying around in a room, I'm like, "Oh, okay, it looks like this is what I'm doing for this next couple of days."
how do you describe that as an artist? Because you have an intention, you know what you're doing, but then it's as if, you know, for lack of a better term, it's like a kind of tunnel vision sets in and then it's done. And you're like, I can't really remember what transpired between when I first started and the end.
I
Is
think
that sort of what you're explaining? And like, what is that?
it's sort of well, like, there's a lot of moments where it's like, the tweet where I wrote out, like, because I even include that in the video where I list off the 3 dates and then that just being at the top of my head, being around, like, the same time as, uh, that protest that Aaron did, rest in peace, and then, um, yeah, just being so, like, shook by it, and oh, that's it. That's why I was like, "Nah, this is crazy. Now I know what I gotta do." Because as I was cleaning up and I found the canvas that was just leaning up against the wall somewhere, I was cleaning while listening to just a playlist, and the song that happened to start playing, it was Know Your Enemy by Rage Against the Machine.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure that it's from the album where it's got the album cover is the monk who's done the same thing. And so yeah, I was like, all right, okay, I'll do a painting. I get it, because like it was a very sporadic playlist, and then it just happened it has to play a Rage Against the Machine song from that album as I pick up a canvas. I'm like, all right, it looks like I have to do a painting then. And yeah.
We had Matt Binder on this group show that we do once a week, and we were talking. It was the day after that happened, and he reminded me of that Buddhist monk from the Vietnam protests, and I had forgotten about it. And on the one hand, it's not like I blocked it out, but it made me think there is so much going on just in the last few years that that was an important moment we remember from Vietnam over several decades after. And then the stuff that's been going on like fairly recently, like in the last 20 or 30 years, is it's like 10 times
it,
the amount of horrible stuff.
it's like I'll ruin your day for you. Did you know that Aaron wasn't the first person to do this
Yeah,
for this?
that too. Yeah. And then
He
there's
was There's
that.
someone else who already had done it because they weren't, like, from the Air Force, it wasn't as notable to everybody.
Right.
Um, and it wasn't live streamed as well, so that too, that was a big part of it. And
Nevertheless, people should be
even
talking about it.
Every Earth Day, someone does the same thing in front of your, Supreme Court or, like, some big important building. Every Earth Day, another person does it, and you're never gonna hear about it. Like, you look up the list of people that have done this sort of protest, and you'll see, like, pretty much every year since there's been an Earth Day, especially in America, somewhere in Washington, there's been another person who's, like, protested in this way. And, yeah, it's just 'cause I didn't until I looked up, like, came across the list while looking up, like, getting information for that painting. I was like, "Wow." Every year, never heard of any of them until, like, now when I went looking for this information in a sense. That shook me. That really did shake me, because yeah, you never hear it, but they're never gonna tell you about that. They're never gonna be like, "Oh, these people are real upset with how quickly we're destroying the planet." Like, because yeah, that's not something you wanna bring to the public's point of view. That's gonna make too many people think about it.
So you are always paying attention to all this stuff that's going on. It's not nice. It's not a pretty world. It can be bad or it can be worse than bad. What do you do to unplug? Like, do you,
Um,
cuz that's important for even viewers to know, like how do people decompress?
um, I'm thinking it's like to try and keep the legality all good amongst whatever nation I gotta be giving advice from and to. For 1 second, sorry.
Mhm. That's one way.
I,
That was me for so from like cuz I moved from Colorado to South Carolina and I was like, I guess I won't do this anymore."
I think I live in the only part of Australia where it's, not a crazy price, but that's all I have to say, is keeping myself in the clear here,
That's a good
because yeah,
answer.
we're still, behind with a lot of things in that sense. And to unplug, I completed Crash Team Racing on PlayStation 4 on hard. Anyone that's played
Oh,
that game, they're gonna know the time I had. But yeah, now that I've done that, it's like I try to just, like, draw and paint and stuff and go walk my dog and hang out with my parents and see how they're doing, uh, and, make, like, other content that's not informative, just, like, entertaining, uh that's, like, a good distraction, just, like, yeah, working on just, like, different editing techniques and whatever, and there's strange little TikToks I make.
you would be a good writer. Do you ever write fiction? I feel like you'd be really good
Oh,
at that.
if I had to write something if I had this is gonna alright, I don't even know how this is gonna come across. If I had to write something, don't even think about it, Fungi, don't. My cat's gonna come and
What's
mess up
what's your
everything.
cat's name?
Fungi, like a mushroom, fungus.
Okay.
Don't you dare, fungus. Um, yeah, because I don't think my imagination is good enough. Oh my gosh, fungi, no. Oh no. Oh no, sorry.
That's awesome. I knew that was gonna happen.
What has she done? She made the screen go all strange.
Yeah, it's tilted.
Oh, ah,
There it is.
fungi. Get
How
get
old
down.
is that cat? Is it a
Oh,
kitten?
she get no.
Oh,
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 she's gone for the power cord. She
that
almost
is
unplugged
great.
it. Go away. Stop it.
This is a pet-friendly show. It's totally cool.
Yeah, but my pet is not a show-friendly pet. Yeah, at the very end, like, she jumped as I started listing off corporations that donate to Australian political parties and, yeah, thanks. I think she's just you wanna be on camera. Get on my shoulder. Go on, do the parrot thing.
Will she
I
do
got 3
that?
cats, 3 turtles, a dog, and a bunch of fish.
Oh, wow. I have one dog right now.
I had rats originally, they were my main
Oh,
jam, and everyone kept giving me I never wanted a turtle, they just gave me a turtle, and then another person gave me a turtle, and then my housemate moved in with a turtle, and I took better care of the turtle, so I kept the turtle. I'm like,
see,
"You can" he moved out and he left the turtle 'cause it's my turtle now.
this is what I
Well,
mean. Like the last 30 seconds sounds very interesting. You should just write this stuff down. I'm
that's
not
what I
talking
mean,
like a
exactly where I
diary,
was
but
getting my
yeah.
point of, fiction, I don't know if my imagination would be quite good, but I've done some really strange things, like, I could, like, recount like, my memoirs would be some interesting writing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'd read it. Do you ever read comic books? Is that a thing? Have you ever read
Read them,
comics?
I had a box of them here, which, like,
Oh,
a housemate left here, and I'm like, "Oh, hi, Fungi. Thanks, Fung. Oh,
that's
ow."
adorable. Single issues? Like somebody left a collection behind?
Yeah, but and I was like, am I allowed to look through these? Because I was like I just picture all comic books, I was like, don't open that. Don't get your fingerprints on that." I just have that in my mind. I was
Hmm.
like, "But they're there to be read."
Exactly.
So I was, like, hesitant, but, I had to how can you resist? There's a box of them sitting in my house. I'm gonna flip through them. If you didn't want me to, you shouldn't have left them here.
Um, I always end these interviews by recommending a comic book to my guest. And typically it's a way of explaining to people or helping broaden their knowledge of what comic books are and not just superheroes, capes, and masks. Like, I love that stuff, but there's so much more to the medium than that. And so I have one for you that I thought would be cool. Um, Maybe you've heard of it. I'm not sure. Hopefully not. I want it to be an original recommendation. It's called Still Alive: Graphic Reportage from Australia's Immigration Detention System
Oh,
by Safdar Ahmed. Have you heard of
no,
this at all?
I have not. This sounds very interesting. Thank you.
Okay. Weaving journalism, history, and autobiography, Still Alive is an intensely personal indictment of Australia's refugee detention policies and procedures, which are not unlike those in many Western nations, like we've been talking about. It is also a searching reflection on the redemptive power of art. So, once again, it's using art in a way to tell not always easy to read, but important stories and accounts
Very
from
cool.
actual refugees. He went to visit a refugee camp and he took his pencil and pen with him. And I believe he made art with people who were being detained. It's 240-page hardback book, slightly larger dimensions than a traditional comic, which is cool. It's
And
available.
surely you'd think I'd be able to get my actual hands on that in this country. I reckon that's
I
doable.
mean, it'd be a shame if you didn't, but it's from
Yeah, I do like going to
Fantagraphics.
support good old like, I actually think I know where a good place to look for this sort of thing would be. I actually have a few.
Oh, yeah, that'd be the direct route would be to go to a bookstore or a comic shop of some sort
Mm,
and get them. Tell them it's from Fantagraphics Underground imprint. Fantagraphics
awesome.
Underground. And like I said, although it might not always be easy to read, it's an important book, and the reviews about it are like this is a must read. Um, Yeah, so anyway, Still Alive. That's the comic I recommend. I'll put that online the day after this interview. I'll tag you in it. I'll tag the creator in it. There's always some like to be I always try and like, allow worlds to collide, do some cross
Yeah,
pollinization
especially
there and
doing it over, like, such a long distance, that'd be really cool. I'll let you know when I find it and track it down, 'cause that's good now thank
yes.
you for a new mission.
Yeah, sure. Is
Thank you.
is there anything that you want to plug? We're going to have links to all of your stuff in the description of this video, but is there anything else that you want to talk about or plug before we wrap?
Um, no, that's I'm now buckling down and focusing more on my channel. I've got a little bit of downtime. Um, and yeah, pretty much, yeah, my channel then links to everything else to do with that. And yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for
Thank
this.
you.
This has been great.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it, and we'll see everyone next time.